अश्वतरशतश्मद शिल भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज शिल गुरुदेव की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतरशतश्मद शिल भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतरशतश्मद शिल भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतरशतश्मद शिल भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अश्वतरशतश्मद शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभु की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत शिल गोक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरी गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल दास रघुनाथ गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जय। नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदाता गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देशी पूर्णमासी अगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री कार्तिक व्रत की जय। व्रत पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री ऊर्जेश्वरी श्री विश्वभानु नंदिनी श्रीमती राधा ठाकुरानी की जय। श्री ब्रजमंडल परिक्रमा की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वंदे हम श्री गुरु श्रीयुता परकमलम श्री गुरु वैष्णवंश्च श्री रूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नामिने। श्रीकृष्णलीलकथाने सुदाक्षं औदार्य माधुर्य गुणैश्च युक्तं वरं वरेण्यं पुरुषं महान्तं नारायणं तं शिरसा नमामि। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय आचार्य सिंहरूपिणे श्री श्रीमद्भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव इति नामिने। अतिमर्त्य चरित्राय स्वाश्रितानां च पालने जीवदुःखे सदार्ताय श्रीनाम प्रेमदायिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती इति नामिने। श्रीवर्षभानुवी देवी दायिताय कृपाब्धाय कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः। अद्वयो जल प्रेमाध्याय श्रीरूपानुग भक्तिदा श्री गौर करुण शक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगाविरुदापसिद्धान्तध्वान्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षाद् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्बरसम्भोदे पादाम्बुजाय ते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय ते गौराविर्भावभूमिस्त्वं निर्देष्टा सज्जना प्रिया वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नित्यानन्दनमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानन्दप्रदायिने कलोकल्मषनाशाय जानवपताये नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जयतं सुरतोपंगोर्मम मंदमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्भुजो राधा मदनमोहनो देव्याद्वृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमाधा श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद्राधा शीलगोविन्ददेवो पृष्ठालभिसेवमानो स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवटतटस्थितः कर्षन्वेणुस्वनैर्गोपीर्गोपीनाथ श्रीस्तु नः अंगश्यामलिमच्छटाभिरभ्यो मणिकृतेन्दीवरं जाड्यां जागुडरोचिषां विदधतां पट्टाम्बरस्य श्रिया वृन्दारण्यविलासिनां हृदिलसात् दामाभिरामोदरं राधास्कन्धनिवेशितो ज्वलभुजां ध्यायेम दामोदरम् वृन्दाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवाय च कृष्णभक्तिप्रददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Just make sure everything's okay. Hari Bol, Seshwari Mataji and Rup Manjari Didi. Dandavat pranams everybody. Okay. Davanala sama sangsara dahane Dagda jiva kola yudara karane Karuna varidra kripa varidani bandi Guna sindhu guru charana kamala Nritya gita vadya shri hari kirtane Rohena mahogana mahamata mane Roma Panchakam Pashoya Gora Preme Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Sadarata Jini Vigraha Sevane Shringaradi Ar Mandira Marjane Korenani Gupta Anugata Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Charva Chushaleya Peyara Samoy Prasadana Krishna Rati Swaduhoy Bhaktaya Shvadane Nijatriptaroy Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Shri Radha Madhava Namarupa Gune Ananta Madhurya Lila Ashvadane Lubda Chitta Jini Hana Pratikshane Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Vraja Juba Danda Rati Sambardane Yukti Kore Saki Gane Vrindavane Ati Dakshata He Priyatama Gane Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Sarva Shastri Gai Shri Harir Swarupa Bhakta Gana Bhave She Anurupa Kintu Jini Prabhu Priyatama Rupa Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Jahara Prasade Krishna Kripa Pai Jara Prasade Anya Gati Nai Trisandha Kirti Rastava Dhane Pai Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Guru Devashtaka Ati Jatna Kori Brahma Muhurte Pore Ucha Kori Vrindavana Nath Shakshat Shri Hari Seva Pai Sheva Siddhi Kale Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Vandishe Guru Charana Kamala Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Kṛṣṇa hoite chatur mukha Hoy Kṛṣṇa sevon mukha Brahma hoite narade ramati Narada hoite vyasa Madhva kohe vyasa dasa Purna pragya parmanava gati Nrihari Madhava vamse akshobhya paramahamse Shishya boli angikara kore Akshobhya shishya jaya tirtha Name parichaya Taradase jnana sindhu tore Taha hoite daya nidhi Taradasa vida nidhi Rajendra hoilo taha hoite Tahara kinkara jaya dharma Name parichaya Parampara jana bhalo mate Jaya dharma dase kyati Shri Purushottama jati Tamite pramanya tirtha suri Vyasa tirtha tara dasa Lakshmi Pati vyasa dasa Taha hoite Maravendra Puri Maravendra Puri Vara Shishya Shishvara Itananda Shri Adita Vivo Ishvara Puri ke Dhanya Korilen Shri Chaitanya Jagar Guru Gaura Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya Rupanuga Jane Rajivana Vishwambara Priyankara Shri Sarupa Damodara Shri Gosami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajan Jiva Raghunathan Tar Priya Kavi Krishna Dasa Krishna Dasa Priya Vara Narottama Seva Para Jar Para Vishwanatha Yasha Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tarpriya Shri Bhakti Vinoda Mahabhagavata Vara Shri Gaura Kishora Vara Hari Bhajane Te Jaramoda Shiva Shavana Vivara Sada Seva Seva Para Tahara Daita Dasanama Prabhupada Antaranga Shri Sarupa Rupanuga Shri Keshava Bhakti Pragyana Gauriya Vedanta Veta Maya Vara Tamohanta Gauravani Prachara Chardhama Pracharila Gauravani Bhakti Vedanta Swami Purailo Prabhupader Kama Keshapriya Mahajan Vamana Narayan Gauravani Tade Prandhan Esava Hari Jan Gauranger Nija Jan Tadera Uchishte Mora Kama Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Parampara Guru Parampara Vrindavana Vasi Jata Vaishnavera Gana Prathame Vandana Kori Sabara Charana Nilachala Vasi Jata Mahaprabhur Gana Bhumite Poriya Vandana Sabhara Charana Navadipa Vasi Jata Mahaprabhur Bhakta Sabhara Charana Vando Hoya Anuragta Mahaprabhur Bhakta Jata Goda Deshe Sthiti Sabhara Charana Vando Koriya Pranati Je deshe vaishe Gaurangera Gana Urdhva Bahu Kori Vanda Sabara Charana Hoya Chena Hoi Pena Prabhur Jata Dasa Sabara Charana Vanda Dante Koi Gasa Amanda Tarite Shakti Dare Jane Jane Evera Purane Guna Gaje Vashune Mahaprabhur Gana Sava Patita Pavana Tailo Bemoi Papilo Inu Sharana Vandana Korite Mui Koto Shakti Dhari Tamo Buddhi Doshe Mui Damba Matra Kori Tatapi Mukera Bhagya Manera Ulasa Dosha Kshami Muadhame Korone Jadasa Sarva Vancha Siddhi Hoy Jama Panda Chute Jagate Dulabha Hoya Prem Dhana Lute Manera Vasana Purna Achirate Hoya Devantana dasa elo bekoya jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kori Saparshara Sriya Dhama Sahayavatari Atta Dulabha Prema Karibare Dana Shikhaya Sharanagati Bhakatera Prana Dvainayatma Nivedana Bhaktrite Varana Avashya Rakshive Kṛṣṇa Vishvasa Palana Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Shvikara Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara Sharanga Sharanagati Hoi Bejahara Tahara Prarthana Shrinanda Kumara Rupa Sanatana Pare Dante Trina Kori Bhakati Vinoda Pore Dohu Pada Dhori Akande Akandiya Bole Amitoya Dhama Shikhaye Sharanagati Shikhaye Sharanagati Korohe Uttama Kandiya Kandiya Bole Amitoya Dhama Shikhaye Sharanagati Korohe Uttama Jaya Sapashara Jaya Korahari Sapashara Jaya Korahari Jaya Sapashara Jaya Korahari Sapashara Jaya Korahari Jaya Rupa Sanatan Rupa Sanatan Rupa Sanatan Jaya Rupa Sanatan Jaya Rupa Sanatan Jaya Rupa Sanatan Rupa Sanatan Jaya Rupa Sanatan Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhavatam Vande Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhavatam Vande Mana Mana Samadhukaram Arpaya Nija Pada Pankajama Karante Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhavatam Vande Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhavatam Vande Yadapi Samadhishu Vidirapi Pashyati Natava Nakagramarichin Idami Chami Nishamata Vachuta Tarapi Kriparhuta Viche Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhavatam Vande Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhavatam Vande Bhakti Rudanchati Yadapi Madhavanatai Mamati Lamatri Parameshwarata Tarapitavati Kathur Aparameshwarata Tarapitavati Kathur Ghata Ghatana Vidhatri Bhagavatam Vande Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhagavatam Vande Ayamavilolata Yatya Sanatana Kalitar Bhutarasabharam Nivasatu Nityami Hamritane Dini Bindan Madhuri Masara Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhagavatam Vande Kṛṣṇa Deva Bhagavatam Vande Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Gokula Taruni Mahalamaite Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Damodara Rate Vardhana Veshe Hare Nishkuta Davipineshe Vrishabhanudade Navashashire Ke Lalita Sakhi Guna Ramita Vishakhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Karunam Kurumari Karuna Bhari He Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Sorry. Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Sucharu Vakramandalam Sukarna Ratna Kundalam Suchachitanga Chandanam Namami Nandanandanam Sudirga Netra Pankajam Shikishikandamurdajam Ananga Koti Mohanam Namami Nandanandanam Sunasikagramuktikam Swachandadanta-panktikam Navam Buddhanga-chikanam Namami Nandanandanam Karena Venuranjitam Gati Karendraganam Tukulapita Shobhanam Namami Nandanandanam Tribanga Deha Sundaram Nakadyuti Sudhakaram Amulya Ratna Bhushanam Namami Nandanandanam Sugandhayanga Saurabham Puro Viraji Kostubham Survatshrivatsalanchanam Namami Nandanandanam Vrindavana Sunagaram Vilasanugavasasam Surendra Garbhamochanam Namami Nandanandanam Rajangana Sunayakam Sada Sukha Pradayakam Jaganmana Pralobhanam Namami Nandanandan Shinandandanashtakam पठेद्यशदयान्विता तरेद्भवाब्धिं दुस्तरं लभेतरां ग्रियुग्मकं नमामि नन्दनन्दनं नमामि नन्दनन्दनं नमामि नन्दनन्दनं नमामि नन्दनन्दनं मुनीन्द्रवृन्दवन्दिते त्रिलोकशोकहारिणे प्रसन्नवक्त्रपङ्कजे निकुञ्जभोविलासिनि ब्रजेन्द्रभानुनन्दिनि ब्रजेन्द्रसूनुसङ्गते कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् अशोकवृक्षवल्लरि वितानमण्डपस्थिते प्रवालपल्लव प्रभारुणं कोमले वरभयस्फुरात्करे प्रभूतसम्पदालये कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् अनङ्गरङ्गमङ्गल प्रसङ्गभङ्गुरभ्रुवं सविभ्रमं ससम्भ्रमं त्रिगान्तबाणपातनै निरन्तरं वशीकृतप्रतीतिनन्दनन्दने कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनं तडित्सुवर्णचम्पकप्रदीप्तगौरविग्रहे मुखप्रभापरास्तकोटिशारदेन्दुमण्डले विचित्रचित्रसञ्चरचकोर शावलोचने कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनं मदोन्मदाद्यौवने प्रमोरमानमण्डिते प्रियानुरागरञ्जिते कलाविलासपण्डिते अनन्यधान्यकुञ्जराज कामकेलिकोविदे कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् अशेषहावभावधीर हिरहारभूषिते प्रभूतशातकुम्भकुम्भकुम्भिकुम्भसुस्तनि प्रशस्तमन्दहस्तचूर्ण पूर्णसौख्यसागरे कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनं मृणालवल्लवल्लरि तरङ्गरङ्गदोलते लताग्रलास्यलोलनीललोचनलोकने लाललुलान्मिलान्मनोज्ञमोग्धमोहनाशिते कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् सुवर्णमालिकाञ्चित त्रिरेककम्बुकण्ठगे त्रिसूत्रमङ्गलीगुण त्रिरत्नदीप्तिदेदिति सलोलनीलकुन्तलप्रसूनगोचगोंफिते कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् नितम्बबिम्बलम्बमान पुष्पमेकलागुणे प्रशस्तरत्नकिङ्किणि कलापमध्यमाञ्जुले करेन्द्रशोधदान्तिकावरोह सौमगौरुके कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् अनेकमन्त्रनादमञ्जुनूपुररवस्फलन् समाजराजहंसवंश निक्वनाति गौरवे विलोलहेमवल्लरि विडम्बिचारुचङ्क्रमे कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् अनन्तकोटिविष्णुलोकनाम्र नाम्रपर्मजार्चिते हेमाद्रिजा पुलोमजा विरिञ्चजा वरप्रदे अपारसेदिरेदिदेग्धसत्पदाङ्गुलीनके कदा करिष्यसि हमं कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् महेश्वरि क्रियेश्वरि सरेश्वरि सुरेश्वरि वीरभारती श्री प्रमाण शासनेश्वरि रामेश्वरि क्षमेश्वरि प्रमोरकाननेश्वरि ब्रजेश्वरि व्रजाधिपे शिराधिके नमोस्तुते इति ममार्भुतं स्तवं निशाम्य भानुनन्दिनी करोतु सन्ततं जनः कृपाकटाक्षभाजनं भवेत् तदैव सञ्चितातिरूपकर्मनाशनं भवेत् तदा गजेन्द्रसूनुमण्डलप्रवेशं कदा करिष्यसि हम कृपाकटाक्षभाजनम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपम् अलसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भ्राजमानं यशोधापियो लोका लाधावमाना परामृष्टम् अत्यन्ततद्रुतगोप्या नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपम् लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भ्राजमानं रुदन्तमुहुर्नेत्रायु ममृजान्तं करं भुजयुग्मय सातङ्क नेत्रमुश्वास कम्पत्रिरेखाङ्क कण्ठस्थितग्रैव दामोदरं भक्तिपदम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भ्राजमानम् इति दृक्स्वालीलाभिरानन्दकुन्दे स्वगोष्ठं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तं तदीयेषितार्गेषु भक्तेर्जिततां पुनः प्रेमतस्तं शतवृत्तिवन्दे वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षवदेवं नाचन्यं वृणेहं वरशरपिह इदं ते वापुर्नाथ गोपाल बालं सदा मे मनस्यादे रसं किमानय नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपम् लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् इदं मुक्तं भुजमव्यक्तनीला वृतं कुन्तलस्निग्धरक्तश्च गोप्य मुहुःशुमृतं बिम्बरक्ताधराणि मनस्य विरास्तम् अलं लक्षलवन् नामदेव दामोदरनन्तवेषं प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलब्धिमग्नं कृपादृष्टिवृष्टातिदीनं भतानु गृहाणेषु भाग्यमेधाक्षितेश्व नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं रसकुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं कुबेरात्मजो पदमूर्तैव यार्वत् त्वयामुचितो भक्तिभाजो कृतो च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं सकमे प्रयाचा नामोक्षे ग्रहो मे स्थितामोदरेहा नमस्ते स्तुदामे स्फुरदीप्तिदामे तदियतराय विश्वासदामे नाम राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमोऽनन्त लीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नाम राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नाम राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नाम राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमोऽनन्त लीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमोऽनन्त लीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर दामोदर राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर दामोदर राधा दामोदर हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल जय श्री सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय नितिल श्री श्री राधा दामोदर जू नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशतरशतश्मत् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशतरशतश्मत् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशतरशतश्मत् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशतरशतश्मत् श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रशतरशतश्मत् श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्रील गोरक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जय नितिल प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय श्री रूप गौरी गुरु वर्ग की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पतदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री राधा वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय सर्व अभिष्ट विरक्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड यमुना गंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय श्री नृसिंह भगवान की जय भक्त प्रवर श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल दंडवत प्रणाम रसेश्वरी माता जी, रूप मंजरी दीदी, गार्गराज जी, श्री गुरुदेव मेमोरीज, प्रजुम्न प्रभु, मंत्र मूर्ति माता जी, माधवी दीदी, गंगा दीदी, danda pranams everybody. So let's begin now. Okay, let's do Mangala chant first. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tashrī Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gauratishe namaha. Guruve gaurachandraya radhikaya itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tara Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravridantam Anupetam Apeta Kritam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedu Stang Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vedantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai vasmi, na jivami tvaya vina, iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayamam charanantikam, bhaktya vihina aparadai, kshiptashtakama ditarangamadhe, kripa mai tvam sharanam prapanna, vrinde namaste charanaravindam, bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Pramila Mataji. All right, so, okay, let's go over previous section. So Prahlāda addressed his friends in sweet words and began to teach them about the uselessness of the materialistic way of life. He said, a human being should practice bhakti right from one's childhood. Instead of endeavoring for happiness of the senses that is automatically obtained, one should endeavor for the highest goal. The first 100 years of human life is wasted in 50 years in sleep, 20 years in childhood, 20 years in old age, and the rest in family attachments. And then Prahlāda Maharaj talks about how the human life is misused in strong attachment, in materialistic household life, in insatiable family attachments, and absorption and maintenance. Even the wise are entangled. Liberation is very rare, and our solution to all our problems is to take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. Then he gives instructions on worshipping this Lord Narayan. Pleasing the all-pervading Supreme Lord is not very difficult. Oh, and then he tells how we should be merciful to everybody. That's a really nice shloka. Then, nothing is unobtainable when Vishnu is satisfied. Therefore, surrender unto him. Then Prahlāda told how he received this knowledge from Narad Muni. And his classmates asked him, how did he hear that from Narad Muni? You're the son of Hiranyakashipu, you've never been outside the palace. And how could anybody enter in? So now Prahlāda. Yesterday we read the beginning of the 7th chapter. Tells. Maybe we don't need to read. Okay, I'm just going to read this part right here. When Hiranyakashipu was doing austerities, the demigods attacked the demons and arrested Kayadu. Narad Muni stopped the demigods and said that the child in Kayadu's womb would be a great devotee. Merciful Narad brought Kayadu to his ashram and spoke transcendental knowledge to the mother and the child in her womb. And he spoke, so now, okay, let's go to 17. Yeah, we don't need to read all these details. Okay. So then Narad Muni said, if you put faith in my words, you can understand spiritual knowledge like me, although you are children. Then he goes on, Prahlāda goes on to speak. The soul doesn't undergo any changes, but the body undergoes 6 changes, namely birth, existence, growth, transformation, dwindling, and death, just as fruits and flowers of a tree undergo changes. And he tells the 12 qualities of the Atma, of the soul or supersoul. The soul is eternal, without birth and death. The soul is free from deterioration. It is pure, without material contamination. It is individual. It is the knower of the body. It is the shelter of everything. The soul is material change. The soul is illuminated. The soul is the cause of all causes. The soul is all-pervading, spreading throughout the body as consciousness. The soul is independent of the material body, and the soul is always uncovered. With these transcendental qualities, a learned person must give up the false conception, the asat bhavam of I and mine, aham mama, born of illusion. Link. Who can know the existence of the spirit within the body? Understanding spirit. Just as an expert geologist can extract gold from gold ore, a spiritually advanced person can attain perfection in spiritual life and understand the soul and supersoul within the body by spiritual processes. Link. The above verse explains the knower of Adhyatma. The next verse says what is Adhyatma. The soul exists as an observer within the 8 energies, 3 modes, and 16 transformations. Note. Oh, that's what we're reading right now. Okay, let's see. Okay. Ashto prakritaya proktas traya eva hitar guna vikara sodashacharyai puman eka samanvayat. What number are we reading up to? 35. Okay. The Lord's 8 separated material energies, the 3 modes of material nature, and the 16 transformations, the 11 senses and the 5 gross material elements like earth and water, within all these, the one spiritual soul exists as the observer. Therefore, all the great acharyas have concluded that the individual is conditioned by these material elements. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As explained in the previous verse, Kshetreshu Deheshu Tatatma Yogar Adhyatma Vid Brahma Gatim Labheta. Adhyatma. Adhyatma means spiritual. And so, adhyatma, and a spiritually knowledgeable or advanced person can understand how the spiritual particles exist within the body. And thus, by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. The intelligent person who is expert in finding the self within the body must understand the 8 external energies, which are listed in Bhagavad Gita 7.4. Bhumirapyo nalo vayu kang mano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yang me bhinna prakritirashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Bhumi, earth, includes the objects of sense perception: rupa, form; ras, taste; gandha, smell; shabda, sound; and sparsha, touch. Within the earth, the fragrance of roses, the taste of sweet fruit, and whatever else we want. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.10.4, Sarva kama dugha mahi. The earth, the mahi, contains all our requirements. Thus, the objects of sense perception are all present in bhumi, or the earth. The gross material elements and subtle material elements, mind, intelligence, and ahankar, false ego, constitute the total material energy. Within the total material energy are the 3 material modes, or qualities. These qualities, sattvagun, rajogun, and tamagun, belong not to the soul, but to the material energy. It is because of the interaction of these 3 material modes of nature, that the 5 knowledge-gathering senses, the 5 working senses, and their controller, the mind, are manifested. Then, according to these modes, the living gets the opportunity to perform different types of karma with different types of knowledge, thinking, feeling, and willing. Thus, the bodily machine begins to work. This has all been properly analyzed in Sankhya Yoga by the great acharyas, especially by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, in his incarnation as Devahuti Putra Kapila. This is indicated here by the word acharya. We need not follow anyone who is not an authorized acharya. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One can understand the truth fully when he has taken shelter of an expert acharya. The living entity is individual, but the body is a composition of many material elements. This is proved by the fact that as soon as the living entity quits this combination of material elements, it becomes a mere conglomeration. Of matter. The matter is qualitatively one, and the spiritual soul is qualitatively one with the Supreme. The Supreme is one, and the individual soul is one, but the individual soul is understood to be the master of the individual combination of material energy, whereas the Supreme Lord is the controller of the total material energy. Interesting. Individual combination of material energy. The living entity is the master of his particular body according to his activity, and according to his activities, he is subjected to different types of pains and pleasures. However, although the Supreme Person, the Paramatma, is also one, he is present as an individual in all the different bodies. The material energy is in fact divided into 24 elements. The individual soul, the owner of the individual body, is a 25th subject, and above everything, Vishnu is Paramatma, the Supreme Controller, who is the 26th subject. When one understands all these 26 subjects, he becomes Adhyatmavit, an expert in understanding the distinction between matter and spirit. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 13.3, Kshetra Kshetra Gyayor Gyanam, understanding of the kshetra, the constitution of the body, and of the individual soul and the supersoul, constitutes real gyan, or knowledge. Unless one ultimately understands that the Supreme Lord is eternally related with the individual soul, one's knowledge is imperfect. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mang prapadyate Vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sadurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Everything, material and spiritual, consists of various energies of Vasudeva, to whom the individual soul, the spiritual part of the Supreme Lord, is subordinate. Upon understanding this perfect knowledge, one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Sa Mahatma Sadurlabha. Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Dehastu sarvasanghato jagatastur iti dvidha atraiva murigya purusho neti neti tatat tyajan. There are two kinds of bodies for every individual soul: a gross body made of 5 gross elements, and a subtle body made of 3 subtle elements. Within these bodies is the spirit soul. One must find the soul by analysis, saying, "This is not it, this is not it." Thus one must separate spirit from matter. Purport. Haribol. Anyways, as previously stated, Swarnam Yata Gravasu Hema Kara. Is there somebody at my door? Let me just open up my door. Okay, just opening it like that. Okay. As previously stated, Swarnam Yata Gravasu Hema Kara Kshetresu Yogais Tad Abhigya Apnuyat. An expert in the study of soil can find out where gold is and then dig there. He can then analyze the stone and test the gold with nitric acid. Similarly, one must analyze the whole body to find within the body the spirit soul. In studying one's own body, one must ask himself whether his head is his soul, his fingers are his soul, his hands is his soul, and so on. Anyways, never mind. In this way, one must gradually reject all the material elements and the combinations of material elements in the body. Then, if one is expert and follows the Acharya, he can understand that he is a spiritual soul living within the body. The greatest Acharya, Kṛṣṇa, begins his teachings in Bhagavad Gita by saying, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaramyo vanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhirastatra namohyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2:13. The spirit soul possesses the body and is within the body. This is the real analysis. The soul never mixes with the bodily elements. Although the soul is within the body, it is separate and by expertly conducting such an analysis, one can understand where the soul is. One who is not expert, however, cannot distinguish gold from earth, nor the soul from the body. Anvaya vyatirekena vivekena shatatmana swargastana samanayar vishadvir asatvarai. Sober and expert persons should search for the spirit soul within the minds, purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection. Let me reread that. Sober and expert persons should search for the spirit soul within minds purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection with and distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. Purport. A sober person can study himself and distinguish the soul from the body by analytical study. For example, when one considers his body, his head, his hands, and so on, one can certainly understand the difference between the spirit soul and the body. No one says, I head. Everyone says, my head. Thus, there are two entities, the head and I. They are not identical, although they appear to be one conglomeration. One may argue, when we analyze the body, we find a head, hands, legs, a belly, blood, bones, urine, stool, and so on. But after everything is considered, where is the existence of the soul? The sober man, however, avails himself of this Vedic instruction. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayantyabhisamvishanti tad vijigyasasva tad brahmeti. It's from the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1.1. Thus he can understand that the head, hands, legs, and indeed the entire body have grown on the basis of the soul. If the soul is within, the body, head, hands, and legs grow, but otherwise they do not. A dead child does not grow up, for the soul is not present. If by a careful analysis of the body, one still cannot find the existence of the soul, this is due to his ignorance. How can a gross man fully engaged in materialistic activities understand the soul, which is a small particle of spirit, 1/10,000th the size of a tip of the hair? Such a person foolishly thinks that he thinks that the material body has grown from a combination of chemicals, although he cannot find them. The Vedas inform us, however, that chemical combinations do not constitute the living force. The living force is the Atma and Paramatma, and the body grows on the basis of that living force. The fruit of a tree grows and undergoes 6 kinds of change because of the presence of the tree. If there were no tree, there could be no question of the growth and maturity of fruit. Therefore, beyond the existence of the body are the Paramatma and Atma within the body. This is the first understanding of spiritual knowledge explained in Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yata dehe, Bhagavad Gita 2.13. The body exists because of the presence of the Supreme Lord and the Jiva, which is part of the Lord. This is further explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Maya tatang idang sarvam jagar avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. The Supreme Soul exists everywhere. The Vedas enjoin samam kala vidam brahma. Everything is Brahman, or an expansion of Brahman's energies. Sutre mani gana iva. Rests on the Lord, just like pearls strung together on a thread. The thread is the principal Brahman. He is the supreme cause, the supreme Lord upon whom everything rests. Mata parataram nanyat. Thus, we must study the Atma and Paramatma, the individual soul and the supersoul, upon whom the entire material cosmic manifestation rests. This is explained by the Vedic statement, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti. One second. Okay. Buddhir jagaranam swapna susuptir iti vrittaya tayena evanubhuyante sodhaksha purusha para. Intelligence can be perceived in 3 states of activity: wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. The person who perceives these 3 is to be considered the original master, the ruler, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Interesting. I don't get this. Anyways, well, that's why I read the purport. Purport. Without intelligence, one cannot direct activities of the senses, nor can he understand dreaming or the cessation of all gross and subtle activities. The seer and controller is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Soul, by whose direction the individual soul can understand when he is awake, when he is sleeping, and when he is completely in trance. In Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Lord says, Sarvasya chaham hridisannavishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The living entities are completely absorbed in the three states of wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep through their intelligence. This intelligence is supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who accompanies the individual soul as a friend. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam says that the living entity is sometimes described as sattva buddhi, when his intelligence acts directly to perceive pains and pleasures above activities. There is a dreaming state in which understanding comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, is the Supreme Controller, and under his direction, the living entities are sub-controllers. One must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead with one's intelligence. Evistri varnaparyastar buddhi bhedai kriyod bhavai sarupam atmano buddhid gandharvayum ivan vayat. As one can understand the presence of the air by the aromas it carries, so, under the guidance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can understand the living soul by these three divisions of intelligence. These three divisions, however, are not the soul. They are constituted of the three modes and are born of activities. Purport. As already explained, there are three states to our existence, namely wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In all three states, we have different experiences. Thus, the soul is the observer of these three states. Actually, the activities of the body are not the activities of the soul. The soul is different from the body. Just as aromas are distinct from the material vehicle in which they are carried, the soul is unattached to material activities. This analysis can be considered by a person who is fully under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This is confirmed by the Vedic injunction, Yasmin vigyate sarvam evam vigyatam bhavati. If one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can automatically understand everything else. Because of not taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, even great scholars, scientists, philosophers, and religionists are always bewildered. This is confirmed in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:2-32. Yeneravindaksha vimuktamaninas tayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhaya. Even though one may artificially think himself liberated from material contamination, if he has not taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, his intelligence is polluted. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3:42. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param mana manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu sa. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. Ultimately, when one's intelligence becomes clear through devotional service, one is situated in Buddhi Yoga. This also is explained in Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayantite. When devotional service develops and one's intelligence becomes clear, one can use his intelligence to return home back to Godhead. Etadvara hi samsara guna karma nibandhana agyana mula partopi pungsa swapna ivarpyate. Through polluted intelligence, one is subjected to the modes of nature, and thus one is conditioned by material existence. Like a dreaming state in which one falsely suffers, material existence, which is due to ignorance, must be considered unwanted and temporary. Purport. The unwanted condition of temporary life is called ignorance. One can very easily understand that the material is temporary, for it is generated at a certain date and ends at a certain date after undergoing the 6 kinds of change, namely birth, death, growth, maintenance, transformation, and dwindling. This condition of the eternal soul is due to his ignorance, and although it is temporary, it is unwanted. Because of ignorance, one is put into temporary bodies one after. The spirit soul, however, does not need to enter such temporary bodies. He does so only due to his ignorance or his forgetfulness of Kṛṣṇa. Therefore, in the human form of life, when one's intelligence is developed, one should change his consciousness by trying to understand Kṛṣṇa. Then one can be liberated. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, where the Lord says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata takta deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjunam. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my abode, O Arjuna. Unless one understands Kṛṣṇa and comes to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, one must continue in material bondage. To end this conditional life, one must surrender to the supreme personality of Godhead. Indeed, that is demanded by the Supreme Lord. Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. As advised by Maharaj Rishabdev, Nasadu manye yata atmano yam asan api kleshadda asadeha. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 5.5.4. One must be intelligent enough to understand that although one's body is temporary and will not endure for long as one has a body, he must undergo the pangs of material existence. Therefore, if by good association, by the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, one takes to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, his conditional life of material existence is vanquished, and his original consciousness, known as Kṛṣṇa consciousness, is revived. When one is Kṛṣṇa conscious, he can realize that material intelligence, whether one is awake or dreaming, he can realize that material intelligence is nothing but a dream and has no actual value. Even when he's dreaming, he can understand this. This realization is possible by the grace of the Supreme Lord. This grace is also present in the form of the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is for everyone to engage in the welfare activities to awaken the foolish living entity, especially in human society, so that he may come to the platform of Kṛṣṇa consciousness and benefit by liberation from conditional life. In this connection, Madhvacharya cites the following verses. Dukkarupo hi sangsaro buddhipurvam avapyate yatta swapne shiraschedam swayam kritvatmano vasha tato dukam avapyeta tatta jagarito pitu jananapyatma dukam avashastu pravartate. One must realize that the material condition of life is full of distresses. One can realize this with purified intelligence. When one's intelligence is purified, he can understand that unwanted, temporary material life is just like a dream. Just as one suffers pain when his head is cut off in a dream, in ignorance one suffers not only while dreaming, but also while awake. Without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one continues in ignorance and is thus subjected to material distresses in various ways. Tasmad bhavabdhi kartavyam karmanam trigunatmanam bijaniharanam yoga pravaho paramodhiya. Therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, your duty is to take consciousness, which can burn the seed of fruit of activities artificially created by the modes of material nature, and stop the flow of the intelligence in wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In other words, when one takes to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, his ignorance is immediately dissipated. Purport. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam chayo vya bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. By the practice of bhakti yoga, one immediately comes to the spiritual platform, transcendental to the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. The root of ignorance is material consciousness, which must be killed by spiritual consciousness. That's a nice sentence. The word bija niharanam refers to burning the root cause. The word bija niharanam refers to burning the root cause of material life to ashes. In the Medini dictionary, yoga is explained by its result. Yoge purvarta samprapto sangati dhyana yuktishu. When one is put into an awkward position because of ignorance, the process by which one can be freed from this entanglement is called yoga. This is also called liberation. Muktir hitvanyata rupam sarupena vyavastitihi. Mukti means giving up one's position in ignorance or illusion, by which one thinks in a way contrary to his constitutional position. Returning to one's constitutional position is called mukti, and the process by which one does this is called yoga. Thus, yoga is above karma. Yoga is above karma, jnana, and sankhya. Indeed, yoga is the ultimate goal of life. Kṛṣṇa therefore advised Arjuna to become a yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Lord Kṛṣṇa further advised in Bhagavad Gita that the first-class yogi is he who has come to the platform of devotional service. Yoginam apisarvesham margatenantaratmana shatavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Thus, one who always thinks of Kṛṣṇa within the core of his heart is the best yogi. By practicing all yoga systems, one is liberated from the material condition. Tatropaya sahasranam ayam bhagavato dita yadishvare bhagavati yatayar anjasaratihi. Of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. Purport. Among the linking processes that elevate one from bondage to material contamination, the one recommendation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be accepted as the best. That process is clearly explained in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This process is the best because the Lord assures, Aham tang sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma suchaha. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. There is no need to be worried, for the Lord himself assures that he will care for his devotee and save him from the reactions of sinful activities. Material bondage is a result of sinful activity. Therefore, since the Lord assures that he will dissipate the results of fruit of material activities, there is no need to be worried. This process of understanding one's position as a spirit soul and then engaging oneself in devotional service is therefore the best. The entire Vedic program is based on this principle, and one can understand it as recommended in the Vedas. Yasya devi para bhaktir yata deve tatha guru tate katita hyarta prakashante mahatmana. Is this all in here? I don't even know. God, this happened yesterday also. This is when it's really helpful to have the book. Anyways, you might be reading extra right now. Unto those great, so unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. Yeah, we went through this exact sequence yesterday. Atashi Kṛṣṇa bhavet grahamindriya seva mukha jivado swayameva spurateda. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service to him. Bhaktimam abhijananti yavanyaschashmi tatvata tato mam tatato gyatva vishate taranantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. These are Vedic instructions. Okay, sorry. These are Vedic instructions. One must have full faith in the words of the spiritual master and similar faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, real knowledge of Atma and Paramatma and the distinction between matter and spirit will be automatically revealed. This Atma Tattva, or spiritual knowledge, will be revealed to the devotee's heart because of his having taken shelter of the lotus feet of a Mahajan, such as Prahlāda Maharaj. Okay, I'm not sure if that was even in the book, but whatever. Okay, we just read this translation. Unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both, all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. One must accept the pure devotee, the representative of God, as one's guru, and then offer him all the respects one would offer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a secret of success. For one who adopts this method, the perfect process is revealed. In this verse, the words Yar Anjasa Rati indicates that by offering service and surrendering to the spiritual master, one is elevated to devotional service, and by performing devotional service, one gradually becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of this attachment to the Lord, one can understand the Lord. In other words, one can understand what the Lord's position is, what our position is, and what our worship is. All this can be understood very easily by the simple method of bhakti yoga. As soon as one is situated on the platform of bhakti yoga, the root cause of one's suffering and material bondage is destroyed. This is clearly explained in the next verse, which gives the secret of success. Oh, this is an important verse, very commonly quoted. Guru Shushushaya Bhaktya Sarvalabdharpanena Cha Sangena Sadhu Bhaktanam Ishvararadhanena Cha Shraddhaya Tatkathayam Cha Kirtanar Gunakarmanam Tatpadam Buruho Dhyanat Talingekshar. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, and in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord. Sorry. God, I need to shut off my phone. It's distracting me. Whatever one has should be offered to the spiritual master. In the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra and Guru. Purport. In the previous verse, it has been said that the process which immediately increases one's love and affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best of the many ways to become free from the entanglement of material existence. It is also said, Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Actually, the truth of religious principles is extremely confidential. Nonetheless, it can be understood very easily if one actually adopts the principles of religion. As it is said, Dharmam tu shakshad bhagavat pranitam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 6:3-19. The process of religion is enunciated by the Supreme Lord because He is the supreme authority. This is also indicated in the previous verse by the word Bhagavatoda. The injunctions or directions of the Lord are infallible, and their benefits are fully assured. According to his directions, which are explained in this verse, the perfect form of religion is bhakti yoga. To practice bhakti yoga, one must first accept a bona fide spiritual master. Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:274-75 advises, Guru pada shrayas tasmat Kṛṣṇa dikshadi shikshanam Vishram bhena guror seva sadhu vartmanu vartanam sa dharma prichabhogadi tyaga Kṛṣṇasya hetave. One's first duty is to accept a bona fide spiritual master. The student or disciple should be very inquisitive. He should be eager to know the complete truth about eternal religion, Sanatana Dharma. The words Guru Shrushrushaya mean that one should personally serve the spiritual master by giving him bodily comforts, helping him in bathing, dressing, sleeping, eating, and so on. This is called Guru Shrushrushyanam. A disciple should serve the spiritual master as a menial servant, and whatever he has should be dedicated to the spiritual master. Pranar atar diya vacha. Everyone has his life, his wealth, his intelligence, and his words, and all of them should be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the via medium of the spiritual master. Everything should be offered to the spiritual master as a matter of duty, but the offering should be made to the spiritual master with heart and soul, not artificially to gain material prestige. This offering is called arpan. Moreover, one should live amongst devotees, saintly persons, to learn the etiquette and proper behavior of devotional service. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that whatever is offered to the spiritual master should be offered with love and affection, not for material adoration. Similarly, it is recommended that one associate with devotees, but there must be some discrimination. Actually, a sadhu, a saintly person, must be saintly in his behavior, sadhava sad achara. Unless one adheres to the standard behavior, one's position as a sadhu, a saintly person, is not complete. Therefore, a Vaishnav, a sadhu, must completely adhere to the standard of behavior. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that a Vaishnav, a person initiated into the Vaishnav cult, should be offered the respect befitting a Vaishnav, which means that he should be offered service and prayers. However, one should not associate with him if he is not a fit person with whom to associate. Hari sarveshu bhuteshu bhagavan asta ishvara iti bhutani manasa kamaistait sadhumanayet. One should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his localized representation as the Paramatma, who is situated in the core of every living entity's heart. Thus, one should offer respect to every living entity according to that living entity's position and manifestation. Purport. Hari sarva bhuteshu. This statement is sometimes misunderstood by unscrupulous persons who wrongly conclude that because Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is situated in every living entity is therefore Hari. Such foolish persons do not distinguish between the Atma and the Paramatma, who are situated in every body. The Atma is the living entity, and the Paramatma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual living entity, however, is different from the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Hari Sarveshu Bhuteshu means that Hari is situated as Paramatma, not as Atma, although Atma is a part of Paramatma. Offering respect to every living entity means offering respect to the Paramatma situated in every living entity. One should not misunderstand every living entity to be the Paramatma. Some unscrupulous persons designate a living entity as Daridra Narayan, Swami Narayan, this Narayan or that Narayan. One should clearly understand that although Narayan is situated in the core of the heart of every living entity, the living entity never becomes Narayan. Evam nirjita sadvargaye kriyate bhaktirishvare vasudeve bhagavati yaya sanglabhyate ratihi. By these activities, as mentioned above, one is able to cut down the influence of the enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy, And when thus situated, one can render service to the Lord. In this way, one surely attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. As mentioned in verses 30 and 31, one's first duty is to approach the spiritual master, the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to begin rendering service to him. Prahlāda Maharaj proposed that from the very beginning of life, Komara Acharit Pragya, a small child should be trained to serve the spiritual master while living at the Gurukul. Brahmachari Gurukule Vasan Danto Gurur Hitam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7:12-1. This is the beginning of spiritual life. Guru Padashraya Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam Sadharma Pricha. By following the instructions of the Guru and the Shastras, the disciple attains the stage of devotional service and becomes unattached to possessions. Whatever he possesses, he offers to the spiritual master, the Guru, who engages him in Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. The disciple follows strictly, and in this way learns how to control his senses. Then, by using his pure intelligence, he gradually becomes a lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami, Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha. In this way, one's life becomes perfect, and his attachment for Kṛṣṇa becomes positively manifested. In that stage, he is situated in ecstasy, experiencing bhav and anubhav, as explained in the following verse. Nishamya karmani gunan atulyan viryani lila tanuvi kritani yadati harshot fulakashugad kadam pratkanta ud kayati rotir nrityati. One who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person hears of the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnations for the performance of various pastimes, his hair stands on end on his body. Tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he experiences his transcendental jubilation. Purport. The Lord's activities are uncommon. For example, when he appeared as Lord Ramachandra, he performed uncommon activities like bridging the ocean. Similarly, when Lord Kṛṣṇa appeared, he raised the Govardhan hill when he was only 7 years of age. These are uncommon activities. Fools and rascals who are not in the transcendental position consider these uncommon activities of the Lord logical. But when the pure devotee, the liberated person, hears about these uncommon activities of the Lord, he immediately becomes ecstatic and exhibits the symptoms of chanting, dancing, and crying very loudly and jubilantly. This is a difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. We're ending with this verse here. Yada graha grasta iva kvachid dasatya krandate dhyayati vandate janam muhushvasan bhakti hare jagatpate narayanetatma matirgata trapaha. When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation, and he offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, he becomes careless of soul and loudly chants like a madman, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, O my Lord, O Master of the universe. Purport. When one chants the holy name of the Lord in ecstasy, not caring for outward social conventions, it is to be understood that he is Atma-mati. In other words, his consciousness is turned toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's a little bit more time. Let's read 36. This section is a little bit longer. I ended it early because, okay. Tada puma mukta samasta bandhanas Tarbhava bhavanu kritashaya kriti nirdagdabhi janu shayo mahiyasa bhakti prayogena samitta dokshajam. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes and because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Because of his intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burnt to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Purport. When a devotee is completely purified, he becomes anyabhilashita shunya. In other words, all of his material desires become zero, being to ashes, and he exists either as the Lord's servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover. Because one thinks constantly in this way, one's present material body and mind are fully spiritualized, and the needs of one's material body completely vanish from one's existence. An iron rod put into a fire becomes warmer and warmer, and when it is red hot, it is no longer an iron rod, but fire. Similarly, when a devotee constantly engages in devotional service and thinks of the Lord in his original Kṛṣṇa consciousness, he no longer has any material activities, for his body is spiritualized. Advancement in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is very powerful, and therefore, even during this life, such a devotee has achieved the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. This transcendental ecstatic existence of a devotee was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this regard, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam writes as follows: Tad yata swarupam bhakti kechid bhakta vinrityanti gayanti cha yatepsitam kechid tushnim japantyeva kechid shobhaya karina. The ecstatic condition of devotional service was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who sometimes danced, sometimes cried, sometimes sang, sometimes remained silent, and sometimes chanted the holy name of the Lord. That is perfect spiritual existence. Okay, I'm ending here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Uh-oh, there are only 2 people watching. Is that what these messages were about? Anyways. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitila Pravishta Mahabhagavat Shila Goswami Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitila Pravishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopala Patadasha Gunashar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal, Gaur Mandal, Vaja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlāda Maharaj ki jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Kṛṣṇa Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Dandavat Pranams. Okay, Raseshwari Mataji also said that it was fine. Okay, that's strange because here it said that it went down to 2 people, but now it says that there's 4 people. Anyways, so I think this isn't always accurate. All right, we're getting so close to Nrsimhadev appearing now. I think we'll either see Nrsimhadev tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. That'd be neat if Nrsimhadev appears on Purnima. Anyways, I have to check out the word count of everything and see if we can have Nrsimhadev manifest on the last day of Kartika. That would be pretty cool. All right. Jai Shri Radhe, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Hari Bol.